Hello and welcome. I'm Brett Ethridge, founder of Dominate Test Prep and the industry's leading executive assessment prep course, and I'm excited you're here. I'm excited for what we're going to be talking about in this video, and specifically, I'm going to give you 3 tips, 3 ways to avoid what I see as the biggest mistakes that executive assessment test takers make when they're preparing for the exam and then on test day as well. And so I'm going to point out those mistakes and then give you very tangible, practical strategies and tactics you can use to avoid those mistakes and get more right answers on test day. And really that's my goal for you here. I want you to leave this video with the ability to get more right answers. I know some of you will end up enrolling in our complete executive assessment prep course. I'll look forward to working with you if that's what you ultimately decide, but even if not, I want this video to empower you to get a higher score, and I'm confident that it will. Now, before we dive in, like I said, I've got 3 cool things to share with you, a little bit of housekeeping. This is going to be the first in a 3-part series on executive assessment mastery. So it's going to be a great video, but I have some ideas of a few more things I want to be able to share with you. And I'm going to be releasing the next 2 videos only on my Dominate Test Prep YouTube channel. So head over there and subscribe to that channel so that you're alerted whenever I drop those next 2 videos, right? So if you're already on that channel, great, just click the subscribe button. If you're watching this anywhere else, head over. I'll provide a link in the description below, so you should be able to just click on that and very easily subscribe. But again, make sure you're alerted and be on the lookout for those next 2 episodes. But here we are, kind of the first in this series on the 3 biggest mistakes that I see students make. So without further ado, let's dive in, and specifically let's talk about the first mistake. Kind of the biggest mistake that I see students making on the executive assessment is that they try to solve math questions, the quantitative questions on the executive assessment, the quote, traditional way. And yes, that is a mistake. So what do I mean by that? I mean, that sounds like what you should do, right? Not so fast. Let me remind you of what your goal is. Your goal is to get right answers, to get enough right answers to get the executive assessment score that will get you into your target business program, not to make your high school algebra teacher happy. Does that make sense? Like, nobody's checking your work on your scratch paper to see if you did it the right way. You either get the right answer or you don't. And too often, students come at the quantitative section of the executive assessment through the lens of traditional math. But it's a quantitative reasoning exam. It's not a math test. And there's a nuance there. And so often, the best way of answering questions is not the traditional way, it's non-traditional ways. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And this should be encouraging to you. Like, this should be a breath of fresh air for you. I hope you have a big smile on your face, because here's what we know about the kind of the demographics of people taking the executive assessment. If I had to guess, my guess is that it's been a while since you have seen the type of math tested on the executive assessment. It's a lot of high school level math, but you've probably been out of high school for a long time, certainly the 4 years of college, and then however many years you've been out in the workforce, and so you haven't seen this stuff for a while. And yet, yes, we need to brush off what I call some math cobwebs, but we also need to equip you to get right answers. And coming at certain questions in a non-traditional way can help you get those right answers and avoid having to do the traditional algebra all the time. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Take a look at this sample question. So here's the question, and don't freak out, don't break out in a cold sweat, right? I know some of you, this is the first time you've seen these annoying word problems for a while, but we need to know how to answer this question. And it says that an optometrist charges $150 per pair for soft contact lenses and $85 per pair for hard contact lenses. Last week, she sold 5 more pairs of soft lenses than hard lenses, and her total sales for all of the contact lenses was $1,690. What was the total number of pairs of hard contact lenses that she sold? And you have your answer choices. So feel free to press pause, maybe wrestle with this question on your own and see how you do. And even if you're confident you got the right answer, pay attention to what I'm going to explain in terms of how you should come at a problem like this. We'll discuss it here in a moment, but feel free to try it on your own first. Go ahead and press pause. All right, so how did you do? Don't worry if this was challenging for you, that's totally okay. Let me show you just such an easy way of coming at a question like this, right? This is an algebra question, it's a word problem, right? We're trying to solve for h. Right? If you were going to set this up as an algebra problem, we would need to create some sort of equation, right? And technically it's a simultaneous equation question because we know that we have, you know, there's prices per soft lenses, $85 per hard lenses. We know that soft is the H's, the hard lenses plus 5, right? They tell us that there are 5 more soft lenses sold than hard lenses sold, and so that's a 5, not an S. Sorry if my 5s look like my S's. And so maybe we would do something with that part of the equation, and we know, okay, but that price per soft and that price for hard, we know that we have $16.90 total sales. So like, what do we do with that? Oh, okay, well, maybe I can create another equation with the S's and the H's to add up to $16.90 and then do my simultaneous equations and then hope I do it all right to arrive at H. A lot of places you could go wrong there, right? Assuming you even remember how to set up those algebraic equations. But what do we notice about the answer choices? And this is the mindset that I want you to adopt, right? If you come at it the traditional way, the mistake a lot of students make, there are a lot of ways you can go wrong. And in theory, there are like an infinite number of possible answers for H. Now, there's only one right answer, obviously, if you set up the simultaneous equations correctly. But the point is you can come up with lots of answers, and maybe it's one of those answers, maybe it's not, depends on if you do it right or not. But one of those answers is correct. Like literally they've given you the 5 possible answers in the whole universe of numbers that H could be. One of them is correct. What if, instead of trying to solve it the traditional way, we start with the answer choices and just see which one works? A strategy I call working backwards. I teach it in my course among a number of other non-traditional kind of non-standard strategies, but this is a great strategy anytime you see questions where answer choices are all numbers, because that's what we have going on here, right? Look at answer choice C, and the way you execute this strategy is, let's start with that middle answer choice, right? What do you notice about the answer choices? They're in ascending order. 3, 4, 5, right? They're getting bigger. So answer choice C is the middle number. What if we just assume that's the answer? What if we assume that there are 5 hard lenses sold? And let's just see if that works. And maybe it does, and that's your answer. And if not, it should lead us in the direction of which answer choice to go with, right? If we test 5, H equals 5, and it doesn't work, and it's too big, like it's too many, then we go to answer choice A or B. If it's too small, then we go to answer choice D or E, and just kind of keep working it that way. And you don't have to test very many of the answer choices, in fact, probably only 2, 3 at the most, to get the right answer. So this is what I call the working backwards strategy. It's what I mean by coming at it from a non-traditional way, and let's see how it works out, right? If, big if, we don't know that answer choice C is going to be correct, but let's test it. H equals 5. That means the soft lenses is 5 plus 5 or 10. So they've sold 10 pairs of soft lenses. Well, is that correct? I don't know. Oh, but I know that they need to add up to $16.90, right? Okay. So if the soft lenses are $150 per pair and we have 10 pair of them, 10 times 150, that means $1,500 are being sold on soft lenses. $85 are being charged for the 5 hard lenses, 85 times 5. You might have to do a little bit of math on your scratch paper. Unfortunately, no calculator, at least at the time of the recording of this video on the executive assessment. But 5 times 5, 25, 425, 425. Okay, well, technically that adds up to 1925, not 1690, and therefore answer choice C is not correct. It's not the right answer. And now that narrows our focus, doesn't it, right? It has produced a dollar amount that is too big or too small? Too big. And therefore, there are too many hard lenses and too many soft lenses. Like, we need fewer of them to get to a smaller total revenue. And so not only is answer choice C incorrect, but we can also now eliminate answer choices D and E. No need to even test them. And now we're looking at answer choices A or B. What do you want to test, 3 or 4? I mean, it kind of looks like a fairly big jump down to 1690. So maybe I'll test, let me erase a couple of these. Let's do this again. Let's go with answer choice A and see if that works, right? If H equals 3 now, that means there are 8 for S. And so 8 times 150, 150 times 8, 0, 41, 1,200, right? So $1,200 on the soft lenses times 85. I don't even care what that is. It's going to be too small, right? 85 times 3, 15, 25, 255. So 1455 if I did that right. But the point is it's too small. It's not up to 1690. So answer choice A is also incorrect, which means the answer must be D. There must be 4 hard lenses. I don't even have to test it at this point, right? Answer choice C, 5 was too big. Answer choice A, 3 was too small. It's got to be answer choice B. And if you were to do it, it would work out, right? If you have enough time on the test and you want to prove it to yourself, you can do it. But this strategy, by the way, is a way to save time, generally, right? These non-standard strategies, these alternative ways at coming at these questions are usually easier. Did you find this easier? Like hopefully the light bulbs are going off, you're like smiling to yourself. Easier and faster in most cases, which is important on a timed exam. And I wanted to quickly share this with you. One of my former students, Spencer, emailed me this partway through taking my course. And he said, I have to say as a former educator, I'm really impressed with your lessons and teaching style. You have a unique way of communicating, et cetera, et cetera. But notice what he says at the end. He said, if I were to go back in time and teach algebra again, I would borrow some of your strategies. And I absolutely love that, and I hope you love that, and I hope you feel the same way. Like, why didn't my algebra teacher teach me this stuff? It would have make high school math so much easier, but we're concerned with you getting more right answers on the executive assessment, and hopefully you now see that this way of coming at problems in a non-traditional way will help you do that. And by the way, there are other strategies, right? This strategy of working backwards isn't going to apply on all questions. What if you have variables in the question and answer choices? What if you have, just different types of questions for which this particular strategy doesn't apply? Again, I cover all of the non-traditional strategies in our course, but this is the mindset you want to adopt as you take into preparing for and then taking the executive assessment. So that's a biggie. That's a big mistake, but there are 2 other important mistakes to talk about as well. So let's look at the second common mistake. And that is this. Mistake number 2 is that executive assessment students often do too much work on data sufficiency questions. All right, so what do I mean by that? Why would it be a mistake to do too much work on data sufficiency? Isn't doing a lot of work a good thing? No. You want to do just as much work as it takes to get a right answer. And in the world of data sufficiency, that literally means simply determining whether or not you could answer the question, not to actually answer the question. So the mistake that a lot of students make is they actually do solve the question, like it's a problem-solving question, right? Think back to the example that we just did, right? Mistake number 1, it was an actual problem-solving question and we had to find the right answer. There was a multiple choice answer set and we had to find the actual correct answer. Data sufficiency doesn't work that way. You're simply trying to determine sufficiency and you only need to do as much work as it takes to figure out whether or not you could answer the question. Don't go that extra step to actually solve the question. Here's what I mean. Let's look at a real example because I think it'll make it more concrete for you. Okay, so here's the question, and for some of you, you might be seeing a data sufficiency question for the first time. They're a weird animal, right? It's a very unique question type on the executive assessment, but you'll get up to speed quickly, and I think as I explain it, you'll start to understand how they work. But here they are. You have the question stem that's talking about Lambert's Pie Shop. It serves only chocolate pies and oatmeal cream pies. It sells 200 total pies with customers buying either 1 oatmeal, one chocolate or one of each. By the way, I love oatmeal cream pies. I like this question because it's like making me hungry. And if 80 customers bought an oatmeal and a chocolate pie, so 80 customers bought both, how many chocolate pies did Lambert's sell? And then you have your statements. And our job is simply to determine whether or not those statements individually, together, collectively, like, is that enough information to answer the question? And you see your answer choices. So again, go ahead and press pause, wrestle with this for a moment on your own, see how you do. And then I'm going to talk about the mistake that a lot of students would make on this question and point you in the right direction. So go ahead and press pause, give it a try on your own. All right, so how did you do? I'll leave you in suspense as to the correct answer for a moment. By the way, I'm not rewriting those answer choices. You'll learn exactly what the answer choices mean on data sufficiency as you sort of get up to speed. Certainly we cover it in detail in our course, but here's what I mean about doing too much work. The question that we are trying to answer is, how many chocolate pies did Lambert's sell? And you want to pre-think data sufficiency and really kind of ask yourself, well, what information would I need to be able to answer that question? And what does the question even mean? It's asking me for how many chocolate pies, and notice I have drawn a Venn diagram. That's a great way to represent what's going on here, where we have two groups. We have the chocolate group, the chocolate pie group, and the oatmeal cream pie group. Two groups, right, with some overlap. Because what does the question stem tell us? It tells us that there is some overlap of 80 pies. 80 customers bought both, right? So we know that 80 pies, or 80 people consume both chocolate and oatmeal, right? That's that middle overlap. We're trying to figure out how many total chocolate pies were sold. And the way that we can visually represent that is like the big blue circle. So essentially, can I figure out the total amount in that circle, which, by the way, part of which is 80. So 80 is part of that number, but then there's also like this extra subset that only ordered chocolate pie. So only chocolate pie would be the part of the circle not including the 80. But then there is some people who also bought some oatmeal cream pie that's still inside the big chocolate circle. And then there is also this group, this like small b, that only ordered oatmeal cream pies and not chocolate, therefore it's like doesn't include the both. Does that make sense? So I need to be able to find the big circle. So what would I need to be able to answer that? Well, if I knew b, small b, I can answer that, right? Because I know the whole thing adds up to 200, right? So mentally I'm thinking, okay, small a, which is just the chocolate orderers, plus the 80 overlap, right? Plus the small b, which is just the oatmeal cream pie consumers, that adds up to 200 total pies, right? So that's like my equation. And I essentially need a plus 80, right? So like I literally just need b. If I have b, I can answer the question. And if I've done that pre-thinking, and now I look down at my statements, I can very quickly identify whether or not I've been given enough information to answer that question, right? Because what does statement number one tell us? Statement number one tells us that 40 people did not order chocolate, which means 40 people are outside the blue circle entirely, which means B is 40. That's exactly what I determined I needed. So yes, of course I have enough information with statement number one. Well, how many people actually bought chocolate pies in that case? Don't care. This is where you need to stop. Don't actually do the math. It's not problem solving. Like, could I plug 40 in for B, subtract it from 200 and find A? Yes, of course I could do that. But why? That's not what you're supposed to do on data sufficiency. Just determine sufficiency. Don't do more work than you need to do. That's a mistake. And now I think you see how you should approach it instead. I've pre-thought the question. I need B. Statement one gives me B, and therefore it is sufficient. So I can get rid of B, C, and E. Brett, how did you get rid of those answer choices so quickly once you made that determination? That's the type of thing that we cover in our course. You need to learn what those answer choices mean and why definitively, once I know that statement one is sufficient, B can't be correct, C can't be correct, and E can't be correct, That's for another video, another time. But now we would evaluate statement number 2, and it tells me that oatmeal is 120. What does that mean? Well, oatmeal is 120. Oh, that means the entire circle for oatmeal, the big purple circle, equals 120. Well, that would be enough information as well, right? Because I could take that 120, subtract the 80 overlap, and that would give me little b. And little b is all I needed to answer the question. How many chocolate pies were sold? Don't care. Just know that I could figure it out if I wanted to, or a Harvard math professor with a calculator could, and therefore statement 2 is sufficient by itself as well, which means the correct answer here would be answer choice D. So well done, by the way, if you had seen that, but hopefully you didn't do too much work. I'm gonna leave, let's not even figure it out. If you wanna post in the comments below, you can go ahead and tell us what the answer to the actual question would be if you actually solved it, like a problem-solving question. But mistake number 2 would be to do that. Don't do that. Just determine sufficiency on data sufficiency questions. So there you go. That's the second mistake, but I promised you 3 mistakes, so let's turn our attention to the third common mistake that students make on the executive assessment. And mistake number 3 is acting like a dog with a bone. This has to do with time management, so don't be like a dog with a bone. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Acting like a dog with a bone in my mind means you get fixated on a question, the question in front of you on the screen, and you won't let it go. And you spend too much time on that question because you just can't move on. You can't make yourself move on, right? We've been trained in our academic career so often that we need to wrestle with the problem until we figure it out. I need to get this right. I'm sure if I had more time, I could get it right. Here's the thing though. You're taking a timed exam. And there's a cool and important feature about the format and the scoring of the executive assessment that you need to use to your advantage, and that is this, that within a subsection of questions, you can skip a question and come back to it later. And so you want to do that, right? Quick review of the format of the exam. Let's just look at the hypothetical quantitative reasoning section, for example. You have 14 total questions, so 14 questions in 30 minutes, right? And so it works out to about 2 minutes per question. But here's the way it works. As you may or may not be aware, those 14 questions are broken up into 2 7-question subsections. So basically what will happen is you'll take the first subsection, you'll answer the first 7 questions, and then it's there's kind of a delineation in the system, and they say, okay, you've just done those. Now, depending on how you did on those, we'll either send you to a slightly harder next set of 7 questions or a slightly easier next set of 7 questions, depending on how you did, right? So the exam is adaptive that way. We can talk more about that later, but here's what I'm talking about here with being a dog with a bone. Let's say you're on the first 7 questions, you're plugging along, you do question number 1. Hey, I could work backwards, use Brett's cool strategy. That was easy. You're pretty confident about that one. You get to question number 2, you feel good about that, you're working on it, you're answering it, and then you get to question number 3. And question number 3, it's in the outskirts of your mind. I kind of remember how to do it, and you're wrestling with it, and the next thing you know, 2 minutes have come and gone, 2.5 minutes have come and gone, and you're like a dog with a bone, I am not letting this go. I can do this, darn it. And you just stick with it and stick with it. And the next thing you know, it's been 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and then you finally answer it. Maybe it was too hard for you to begin with, and you end up getting it wrong. So now 2 bad things have happened. You have not only gotten it wrong, and that's fine, you might get it wrong anyway, but more importantly, you have wasted time that you could have used out here. Now, it's not going to hurt you so much in the first subsection, for example. Let's divide that 30 minutes by 2 and say, okay, in theory, you should have spent about 15 minutes on the first subsection. And now we've spent 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 minutes on the first subsection. That's stealing time from your next 7 questions, so that what happens is you get to question 12, 13, 14, and you're out of time. And you might have been able to get those questions right. Does that make sense? So let's not be like a dog with a bone on question number 3, because we want to make sure we have a fighting chance of getting questions 6 and 7 right, and then the last few questions in the next subsection right. We want time to work on them. And so basically, the solution to that is, don't be a dog with a bone. As soon as you're about 30 seconds into the question, you realize, I'm just not making a whole lot of headway, just mark it. Go to question 4, go to question 5, maybe I got that one wrong, even though I thought I was doing well on it. 6, 7, now come back and wrestle with that for a few more seconds and either make an educated guess or maybe you have a breakthrough or whatever. And then at some point you still need to cut your losses and now move into the next subsection. So you can skip, come back within a subsection. Once you cross this invisible barrier and are in the next subsection, you can't go back to the first subsection, so just kind of realize that. But within a subsection, don't be like a dog with a bone, save time and realize that you don't want to steal from later questions at the end of the section, right? You can always go back if you need to, but let's make sure that we at least have a chance to work on every question on the exam. So there you go. That is being a dog with a bone. Don't do that. Don't always try to solve questions the traditional way, and don't do more work than you need to on data sufficiency. So I hope you have found this helpful. I hope you have a big smile on your face, that you feel better equipped to get more right answers on the executive assessment, that you feel more confident about your ability to do it. I know you can do it, but I want to hear from you. What aspect of the executive assessment gives you the most concern? And in fact, please leave a comment below. Let me know. What are you most concerned about when it comes to the executive assessment? And I will certainly answer your questions below. I also may answer them in an upcoming video. And of course, we cover it all in our comprehensive executive assessment prep course. So head over to dominatetestprep.com/executive-assessment for more information about that and to register. Would love to work with you and see you on the inside. And if not, I'll certainly see you in the next couple of videos in this 3-part series on executive assessment mastery. So I will look forward to that. Signing off for now, but I'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.